trust me, the future of this game is going to be more coaching centric, not planning centric, not asset management centric. And for those advisors who get on that train early, you're going to have a massive competitive advantage. Hi, this is Coach Joe Lukacs, and welcome to the Magellan Network Show. My goal inside of this communication, this show, is to share with you my nearly 30 years of coaching some of the most successful financial advisors in North America. We're going to be talking about strategies, syntaxes. We're going to be bringing guests on from time to time, and I'm going to share with you what's working now. So think of this show as sort of like a little one-on-one kind of mini coaching cast, if you like, where we're going to be going in depth from time to time on strategies to help you grow your business, get more effective, become more efficient, find balance in your time management, grow your business, and quite frankly, whatever else is going on in the world today. So before we get to today's episode, I'd love for you to do a couple things for me. Number one, make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're doing the audio, make sure that you give us a review on whether it's Spotify or Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And quite frankly, that does help. It does matter when you rate things and like things and subscribe to things. It helps us get the word out to more of the industry. And lastly, I have a very special gift for you. Go to MagellanNetwork.net, so one word, MagellanNetwork.net, and I have for you a complimentary membership, 100% gratis, where you can tap into about between 50 and 75 hours of masterclasses, forms, tools, templates, and strategies. So please go ahead and make sure you go ahead and get that claimed. Smash the like button and subscribe. And please go ahead and leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're on. And now, let's get to this week's episode. Hi, it's your Coach Joe Lukacs, and welcome to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. This episode was supposed to be part 2 about association and associating with the like-minded advisors, some best practices, but I made a very important decision in the last several days, so I'm going to preempt that. We'll get back to that next week. And I kind of want to give you a little behind-the-scenes look at something that I've put together over the last several months, and why it's important, and why I want you to consider taking advantage of an opportunity. So, I've been doing this for 31 and a half years now. And I have always prided myself at kind of looking down the road with a set of binoculars and saying, what's coming next? What's the next iteration, right? When I started, it was basically, commissions, right? Then we got into advisory. Then we got into financial planning, right? And what's next? Especially today with all the technology, everybody's kind of screaming AI this and AI that. Where's the value creation for advisors? What's the skill set that we need? And so several years ago, my clients, and I'm very blessed that because I run several large mastermind groups of personal clients that we get together. In fact, if you've been following the show, you realize that we were in Park City the last couple of weeks. And, people will pull me aside and plant little things in my ear saying, hey, you ever thought about putting a program like this together? And so a couple of years ago, several of my clients say, hey, have you ever thought about putting together a program on coaching skills for advisors, like how to coach clients, right? So not behavioral finance in a what I'll call a technical way, but how to really relate, how to coach, train, lead, motivate, inspire people, whether they're your clients, your prospects, your team members, stuff like that. And, I'm kind of the person who will sit there and say, sounds good, put it on my board, I'm busy, I've got 15 other things to do, right? So I kind of put it aside literally for a couple of years. And earlier this year, it kind of got resurrected in the February. My masterminds meet twice a year, end of February, end of September. So end of February, we're all here in Winter Park in Florida, and conversation came up again about, hey, we're bringing a lot of young people, like young advisors. A lot of my clients are bringing in next gens, things like that. It'd be really nice to have some sort of training program to give them high-level people skills, because the reality is they grew up on the internet, in front of the Xbox, the Game Boy, using their thumbs on their mobile devices. It'd be really good to create something. And so I went away on sabbatical, and I'm not trying to make the story. I'm trying to give you context of the story here. So I went away on my spring sabbatical, and I really thought about it, and I said, does the industry really need a how to coach client program? And I did some deep dives. I had ChatGPT, right? There's that AI thing. I had to do some deep dives. And there were a couple things out there that were interesting, but nothing really dedicated to what I wanted to do. So while I was on my sabbatical, which I know sounds like you were working, but I love what I do. I started to put together a framework of what I could teach. And so we put it together. And I invited, I think we had 20, 25 people in the room, and another 30, 40 online. And over 3 days, I taught it. And the title of it is Mastering the Art of People, i.e. MAP. So when I say MAP, I'm really talking about mastering other people. And in my research, what I realized was there were some very reputable firms like Morningstar and Vanguard and Fidelity who did research on coaching skills and the alpha that it creates inside of client relationships. I said, okay, so I'm not crazy now. There's some data here. So when I looked over their studies, and by the way, there's a link here, whether you're listening to this on the podcast or on a YouTube channel, there'll be a link here to go kind of look at the program, and that's where all the details are, if you will. But basically, it really adds a couple of points of alpha, and it creates a lot of intrinsic value add inside the relationship. So when I decided to build this, one of the things I had to get really clear on is what are the skill sets, not necessarily just for today, but what are the skill sets advisors are going to need 3, 5, 10 years from now, especially with all this artificial intelligence that's going to be really permeating our industry over the next several years. I mean, we're just the tip of the iceberg kind of stuff. And ultimately what it boils down to is that the advisor is going to look more like a coach than just a person to give technical information. The reality is our world is already saturated with information. It's really about being able to cut through that noise, help them achieve their financial and life goals, and understand that the person you deal with, and I want you to think about this. There's an old saying in this game, this business would be really easy if it wasn't for the people. Now, why is that? Because we are operating in a logic-driven profession, right? Financial plans are what? Logic-driven. Asset allocation is what? Logic-driven. Here's the problem. Your client, 95% of them anyway, there's the 5% that are not, but 95% are emotional decision makers. They operate emotionally. And how do you know that? Whenever any real bad news happens, they want to hit the eject button, right? They get caught up in the news cycle, like all those things. And you can sit there and tell them, hey, just don't watch the news, shut your TV off. That's not going to solve the problem, right? They may listen for a day or two. That's not going to really reframe them. So what it really boils down to is, how do you coach your clients? How do you coach your team? Like, how do you do these things? And what it really, really forced me to do was really say, well, how do I do what I do? Which, after 31 years, I never really posed that question. I just do it. For me, it's just innate. But I had to write it all down. I had to format it. I had to put frameworks around it. And ultimately, what it boils down to is that there's a method to my madness. And I put a framework around it. And I taught it. And if you go to the page, which is magellannetwork.net/map, We have people that were there in the room, like they were blown away by the impact that this material can have. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So while I really wanted to make this just for my clients, for their next gen advisors, that was the initial intent of this. What I realized, I kind of stumbled upon something that's super powerful. So for a couple of days, we're going to make it available for everybody, whoever wants it. Okay. And I'm not going to get into a pitch here. There'll be a link. You can go take a look at that. But trust me, the future of this game is going to be more coaching centric, not planning centric, not asset management centric. And for those advisors who get on that train early, you're going to have a massive competitive advantage. At the end of the day, it's about emotionally connecting with people, not just talking at them, but building deep rapport, being able to really connect at the highest level, at the deepest levels, to be able to ask profound questions, have massive impact, move the needle with your clients, not just economically, but how they connect to you, to build such loyalty, they'll never want to leave you. They wouldn't think of it. You're not just a trusted advisor, you become part of the inner circle. I've been very blessed. Many of my clients, I can measure our relationships in decades. Very few coaches can say that. Why? Because I'm always evolving. I don't just coach and teach the same stuff over and over and over again. Okay, that's what's super important. There was a study by the FPA recently, a couple of years ago, that I think close to 90% of clients wanted that emotional guidance from their advisor, not just facts and figures and information. So I want you to think about that. Almost 90%. That's a massive gap in our industry. We're not providing it, even though that's what our client wants. And truth be told, it's easy to basically regurgitate information that's on a financial plan or in an investment vehicle. It's a lot more challenging to dig in with somebody emotionally, to really uncover their needs, their wants, their wounds, what they want to avoid. That takes a massive amount of mental, emotional, and physical energy. But that is my core of getting in there with people. So I'm going to teach you how I pre-frame, how I reframe, and how I deframe. Now, what does that mean in very quick layman's terms? Hi, Coach Joe Lukacs here, and I'm just breaking here for a moment just to do a couple quick reminders. Number one, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast. In addition, please leave a comment or a review. Those things really, really matter. And share this episode with 3 of your colleagues inside the financial services space. And lastly, make sure that you go ahead and claim your free membership inside of Magellan Network. Now back to this week's episode. The ability to shift a person's perspective in advance of something, to shift a person's perspective while doing something, to destroy a person's perspective if it doesn't serve. It's really about getting down to the truth with a client, transcending the relationship of just advisor-vendor to trusted, inside, highly valued team member that we never want to lose. That's a difference. And by the way, what we have found since we launched this program in July, not only is the value created, but in essence, you can charge higher. You can, if you're so inclined, you can charge higher fees because the person feels more connected. They feel more values being given. That to me is really important. Teach you how to ask powerful questions. A lot of times people think, oh, I'm not a really great salesperson. I'm not a great talker. I'm not a great presenter. Good. You don't need to be. In fact, I can make an argument that if you're a great presenter, it's actually a detriment to you today. It's about becoming a great interviewer, about asking powerful questions. It's about uncovering undiscovered needs, undiscovered goals, the things that are, peeling the onion back to really look at what's there. How many times have you asked yourself this question with a client? Why? Why don't they get it? Why do they do this? Why don't they do this? How would you like those questions answered? Like, there's no more whys. Like, you're going to know how your clients are wired. And look, in the world of virtual Zooms and, Microsoft meetings and Teams and all this other stuff, right? A lot of advisors think that, well, if I don't have the person in the room, I'm at a disadvantage. I want to show you how virtual meetings you can actually have more impact with somebody, especially if you're using like an AI note taker. And the reason why is you can be 100% focused on the person. You can read their body language, look for their inflections, look for subtle changes, and that's what I'm going to teach you. Like how to read a person. Are you really getting the truth? Are they truly believing what they say? Do they believe what you say? There's ways to understand that. There's ways to kind of read a person. So Zoom and any kind of virtual and video conferencing is actually your friend. At some levels, like I'll make the argument, and in the program we talk about it. Zoom is actually superior to an in-person meeting. Because guess what else you get to see? You get to see yourself on the screen. You can gauge where you are. How's my body language? How's my head posture? Am I being real authoritative enough, right? Am I in control enough? Am I passionate enough? Am I congruent enough? Like, you see that. You can't see that if you're physically in the same room. A massive advantage there. There's also 7 steps of change. So, how do you take a person who maybe is fearful of change, afraid to take risk? How do you reframe them? How do you take those incremental 7 steps to have them become get a different outcome? And there are 7 steps to lasting change. And that's what I'm teaching. And I didn't really think about it till I started really think about like how I do things. And then I realized there are 7 steps to what I do. And each one of them is unique and massively important. And I just want you to think this way. If you're frustrated with certain client relationships, is it because the client's a bad person, or you just can't reach them? And you know what I mean by that? And what I mean by that is, like, there are relationships that you have, like, you're not sure where you stand with them. You don't know if they even like you, right? And they kind of play in other words, they play their cards close to the vest, right? You have some clients will tell you everything, sometimes too much, right? And then you have clients that will tell you very little, and like it's like extracting information out. Well, there's strategies for that to break through that barrier, right? So question 1, why do they do it? Because they don't 100% trust you. That's the truth. Why? Because you've never had that real conversation with them. You've kept it professional. And I get that. But a lot of times you got to get in there. And this is what I talk about a lot. You got to get in there, have the tough conversation, the uncomfortable conversation. How do you coach somebody who's spending too much money, who's drawing down their investment account too fast, and they're going to run out of money, right? How do you coach somebody who is not saving enough, or not putting enough away, or not taking enough risk, or taking too much risk? Those are not technical problems. Those are human issues. And that's why we call it mastering the art of people, not mastering the science of people. Because it is a bit of an art form, because everybody's different. Yeah, there are certain patterns that we'll talk about, but everybody's unique. And you've got to be able to deploy things the way you need to deploy things. That's super, super critical. Building rapport. Connecting with people. We talk about bringing energy. So one of the things that I spent a lot of time talking about, and again, whether you decide to acquire the class or not, it's up to you, master class. But I'm going to share this with you. The number 1 tool of influence is energy. Your energy. And here's what I mean. And I just want you to think about this. How many times have you done a client review and kind of checked the boxes? Like, you were there, you kind of did what you needed to do. Maybe there's some things that should have been discussed, but you didn't feel like it for whatever reason. Maybe you didn't sleep well that night. Maybe it's the fifth meeting of the day. Maybe you're hungover. I don't know. But you weren't at your best. And I'll make the argument that you cheated that person and yourself. So physical energy showing up, even on Zooms. Like, a lot of people think like, well, I'll do a phone call or a Zoom, it'll be okay. Like, no, man. Hey, all that matters. Like, you don't have all your power. You just don't. Right? Physical energy. Then we talk about mental energy, which is critical thinking, problem solving. Right? That stuff you already have. That's but I'll tell you, without the physical energy, the mental stuff doesn't. You just want to get out of there. You're trying to get checked out. You're just going through the motions. You're not engaged. And the last one, emotional energy. Emotional energy is where influence happens. Emotional energy is where objections are overcome. Emotional energy is where breakthroughs happen. How many of you even thought about, well, what's emotional energy? It's leadership. It's persuasion. It's influence. It's objection handling. It's the ability to hang in there with somebody when they're being arbitrary or curt or closed off or even combative. Like, breaking through those things. That's where the power is. It's not more information. 80% of influence is how you show up. 80% of coaching in my world is how I show up. That's the difference. The other piece real quick, and again, I don't want to make this a whole pitchy thing. C credits. So the CFP board has granted us 21.5 CE hours. That's a lot. After they reviewed the course. So for those of you who need C credits, as we get closer to the end of the year, good news, we got you covered. At least a lot of it, right? I think you need to do 30 in 2 years. So we can do a chunk right here, right now. Super critical. The other feedback we got, and then I kind of let you know. So real quick before I forget. So we're putting this out. This episode will go out on Friday the 10th of October 2025. The program's available until Monday, October 13th at noon 2025. So if you're watching this like later than that, you have to wait. We will re-update this program in 3 years. So this is the only time it's available. It's not like an annual thing. It's open now, and then we're going to take it off because every year I do a new program or I update an existing program. So this will not show up again for at least 2, if not 3 years, probably almost 3 years, I'm thinking. So this is your opportunity to acquire it, and you own it forever. Done. You can always go back to it. So just keep that in mind. A couple of things real quick. And there's probably two elements here I think are really important. When I put this program together, I really didn't have, one of the things I really wanted to do, and it's just a passion of mine, next gen younger advisors. So A, if you're one, or B, if you have one, this will eliminate a lot of trial and error in terms of dealing with people. A lot. And it will compress your learning curve, your timeline. It will really compress it. So if you're inclined to procure it yourself, great. If you have one, you will do yourself, them, and your firm a big favor by getting them access to this. Okay, super critical. And I just want you to think about this, and then we're going to wrap up this episode. Think about where we are today, fall of 2025, versus where the business was 5 years ago, versus where the business was 10 years ago. If you can go back 10 years, some of you cannot. You haven't been around that long in this game. I would submit to you that the game over the next 5 years, so let's say between now and 2030, the advisor of 2030 is going to be a master at coaching, training, influence, and leadership. A lot of the other things that we do is going to be AI driven. AI financial planning, AI portfolio management, and so. And there's not going to be as many of us either. Again, we're hiring. The industry is looking to hire, looking to bring talent in, but it's not going to replace talent one for one. So what that means is every advisor's going to have to get really good at what they do. There's not going to be room for mediocrity in this game. There's not. So this is your opportunity. Like I said, you have a couple days. I would take advantage of it now. There's a link here. So again, it's I want to make sure we get the URL right. It's definitely MagellanNetwork.net. And it's /MAP. And then there'll be some links here in all the episode and show notes, stuff like that. But again, limited time, take advantage of it. You will not be sorry. I'm putting my personal reputation on this. And with that, thank you for watching and listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. I know it sounded a little pitchy, but I'm just so damn excited. I wanted to, like I said, I preempted this to get this out there. And when I brought the advisor I brought into Winter Park this past July, the reality is I never taught this program before. So okay, here goes the grand experiment. And I do think on the landing page, we have some videos of some people that were in the room, so you can get a feel for what they learned. And this is, to me, as no-brainer as it gets. So take advantage of it, okay? Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys again in 7 days. We're going to do part 2. Promise. See you soon. Thank you for watching or listening to this episode of the Magellan Network Show. Hey, if any of this resonated with you, I invite you to come to MagellanNetwork.net, and we have a powerful group coaching community of like-minded advisors. Come in for a trial. You and I will have a one-on-one conversation. Let's see if I can help elevate your game both personally and professionally.